we asked people if they were uncomfortable with sexual communication and why. And the number one selected reason why was, I will be too honest.
Cool. So, hey, Elizabeth, welcome to Opus.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, so today we're talking to Elizabeth Dell, the CEO and founder of Amorous App. Um, so let's start from the beginning. What is Amorous App, and how did you create the idea?
Mhm. So Amorous is an app for digital intimacy. It is sexting enhanced. It is a place to make your communication and your engagement around sex better and more pleasurable. It really came out of a need that I had. I was uh, in the pandemic and I was sheltered at home and I was struggling with a partner that wasn't with me to find ways to stay sexy with each other, to engage in pleasure, we were sexting and that was really fun, but like, how did you find the next thing to talk about? How did you explore new topics? What could we do? And we were looking for tools out there to help us do that. And I wasn't particularly impressed with what I was finding. And from challenge comes opportunity. I was like, wait, no one else is doing this. Maybe I should do this. Like, I should make something to help people be better at engaging with their flame, whoever, however long or short term. But how do we get to that juicy goodness better? And that's where Amorous was born.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I haven't had so much experience in recent history sexting. Like, I'm currently married and we just
Mhm,
kind of talk about things. And I
mhm.
wish we had more of this spontaneity, something more kind of, a place to have these casual conversations, when I'm at work or when I'm out in the wild. Um, and so I'm interested to understand more about what were the limitations for the other platforms. Like, we talked a little bit before this about upskilling people's actual sexting abilities, and I thought that
Yeah.
was really really quite poignant, because like, you never really think about getting better at sexting. You think, oh, I have sex,
Hmm.
I know my
Yeah.
body, I can talk about sex. Like, how hard can it be? But like, yeah, like, it's not that easy,
Yeah.
is it?
It's not that easy. And I think that sex and sexuality and the communication around it is one of those things that we all keep so very private.
Right.
And one of the things about being very private about something is that you have no comparison sets. I mean, we as humans are really good at, if you don't know what to do, look around at what the other people are doing and do that. And you'll probably that's how we model behavior. We watch
Yeah.
other people, we sort of understand in the world, this is how to do a thing. But we sort of assume that people have communication skills. We sort of leave people on their own to do sexuality skills and to sort of learn that thing. But it's actually really hard. And the things that make sexting really delicious, which is the engagement with the human, the vulnerability, the feeling of trust and of permission to share oneself, the modeling that sharing oneself is not going to be dangerous, the sort of
Yeah.
permission granting that like your desires are normal in the world, your desires are allowed. One of the things that was like, that's all what I wanted to build into Amorous.
Right.
When we were doing our initial research, one of the things we found, which to me was absolutely heartbreaking, was we asked people if they were uncomfortable with sexual communication and why. And the number one selected reason why was, I will be too honest. And what that choosing that answer says about a fundamental belief in a large number of people that honesty about their sexuality is problematic
Oh.
is honestly one of the things that Amorous is there to tackle. I want to build a space where disclosing sexuality is supported, is promoted, and we give you the tools so that you can feel better at doing that. You can do that in ways that are more respectful, that are more consent driven, that make your partner feel safe to have those same disclosures. Because once you can get into that conversation, like there's so much juicy deliciousness there. And there's so like, I mean, sexting is language, it is sharing desire. And if you're doing the things that you actually truly want, that is just so much more fun.
Yeah.
But like feeling the ability to dive into what you really want and what your partner really wants. And for a lot of people, I think that is not even a known quantity. Like the ability to explore, what is it that I really want? What
Yeah.
is the world of options out there? And how can I, as amorous, present ways to start conversations that are fun and a little bit cheeky and engaging. But we have a game around sparking conversation, and it's just text prompts for you and your partner. You hit the chat sparks button, you get a question that might start a fun, sexy conversation.
Yeah.
But it's things like, what was your favorite fantasy when you were 20? Or what's the deepest underground you've ever had sex? Like they're just fun, interesting new takes, but that are often really hard for someone on their own to come up with. And it's like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Amorous is going to do a huge amount of thought to give you these tools to just like have you have a really fun starting off point to jump into your own personal conversation.
All right, cool. So let's rewind a bit. So walk me
Yeah.
through how the platform actually works and how it
Mhm.
accomplishes, galvanizing these conversations. And,
Yeah.
you mentioned games, you mentioned prompts, you mentioned, a whole
Partners.
host of
Yeah.
features. Yeah. So walk me through, maybe not step by step, but like,
Yeah.
how you're accomplishing these things.
So overall concept is that Amorous is a partnered app. So I just want to sort of kind of in framing what Amorous is, there is a wonderful world of apps that are designed for solo journeys, that are designed for people to kind of explore their own sexuality themselves, understand what they like and they desire. Amorous is really oriented towards partners. Now that partnership can be a long-standing monogamous marriage. That partnership can be someone I just met on Tinder. But the idea is that this is a place where you have a known partner, that you have a methodology of sending them an invitation and connecting with them. And so you can exist with them in a partnership, not kind of as a profile that the world searches and looks at and stares at. But once you've connected with someone, at its core, it's a messaging app. It is photos, it is text, it is a lot of features around how do we make that secure? How do we think about things like revocable consent on all of that, that you can take it back in the future whenever you want. Tools, because we know that this is sexual communication.
Yeah.
But really, what intimacy is talking to the other person, is learning another person, is connecting with the human. So the tools for doing that digitally, text and photos, are the core of what Amorous is that exchange. And then built around that are tools that help us do better in sexual communication. So that can be as simple as just an emoji response set, so that you can like tag a text message from your partner, but you can tag it with, say, a yield sign, which is like a very subtle but like way to say, hey, I don't want to interrupt the flow of this sexy conversation, but you're hedging into a space that isn't a conversation I want to have. I don't want to tell you that you're triggering me and start like and derail this whole thing and turn it into a whole something. But if I just tag this with a yield sign, you'll be like, oh, maybe the group stuff isn't where she wants to go tonight. Let me back up and let me talk about a foot rub instead. Let me find a different thing that's going to be that's going to be sexy for both of us without losing our momentum. And it's a very simple thing, but it's a thing that comes from being extremely thoughtful about how does sexual communication work and how can we facilitate that. And then we have these games, the chat prompts. There's another one about fantasies, to find matched fantasies and to learn what you and your partner share in terms of sexual fantasies, but things that are really designed to help get over that I will be too honest idea, help get over that initial. We train most people, like most humans in our societies, get very early trained that the one socially acceptable response to sexuality is disgust. That if you're in a classroom or you're on a playground and you go ew, nobody will yell at you, nobody will call you a perv, nobody will have a problem with that. And so we get ingrained in that. And then even with our partners, even in the spaces where we want to say yes and lean in, we still have this long taught idea that like we should go like that. And that, when you're talking about, disclosing a fantasy, that response, even if it's unintentional, can derail a whole thing. And so how do we find tools to help both partners feel like they're each leaning in, they're each being vulnerable, they're each in a good shared space so that they can disclose and you can get into that. Like, oh my goodness, you're like a real fan of this too. Like, oh my God, we should totally do like a strangers at a bar. Let's go to a hotel and like pretend that we don't know each other and have a role play. And now we've discovered that we never would have before.
Yeah, I mean, when you're sharing intimate conversation like this, I think the first thing that came to mind when you first told me about this was, security, privacy. How do we protect ourselves on this? And because like, obviously, if step one is being intimate and open with your partner and you actually achieve that, then you're disclosing a lot more about yourself than you maybe would if you were hedging, for example.
Yeah.
So like,
No,
how do
absolutely.
you protect, user privacy? How do you protect, these messages? Like, do they stay on the platform? Yeah, could you walk me through the security and privacy
Sure.
aspects?
Absolutely. And I think that there's a couple of considerations, when we built the app to think about security and privacy from a couple of different angles. And I think the easiest way to break it out into buckets is to say that there is sort of a third party concern. So I often think of that as like security concerns, and that's around, encryption keys and management and where are things moving and where are they encrypted and decrypted on the platform. And, all of our message storage is encrypted, all like things are safe in transit for people from sort of third party actors, sort of someone who might want to try and intercept that message and read it. And then there's also what I put in the bucket of privacy concerns. I mean, these are not terms of art, but kind of concerns with your partner, right? Concerns that are not about a government or a hacker, but instead about changes in the relationship and the consent levels between you and the person that you are sharing with. And I think, for me, I always say, act with caution. Like, I don't encourage anyone to, also just in terms of what's fun, like, don't start from the most explicit naked shot you've got with your face like peering into it, I want everyone to always exercise common sense. But we certainly tried to build a lot of features into the app to make this a more comfortable and private and space for this. Things like, what are those things that I mean? One is you can bypass your photo stream using Amorous. So Amorous has a camera and a picture sending capability. So if you want to be sending sexy pics, if you're taking them from within Amorous and then you're sending them to your partner, they live only in your media library. They don't live in your photo stream. Now, I don't have the best of the best, photo filter edit system. So if you're someone who has like 6 apps to airbrush, then you're going to still have to take that picture elsewhere and do that and come back in. But if you want to like send a spur of the moment sexy pic that's you never have to worry about being in your photo stream or seen by someone else who picks up your phone, that's a tool. We build our picture exchanges to be something that lives really comfortably in the app, but you can't share it out from the app. But having it in the app is built to like work in that workflow really well. So for instance, when I share a picture, if I share a picture as part of a really fun text exchange, and then 2 weeks later, I'm like, I want to go back to that amazing story we were telling each other. Well, that picture serves as a bookmark. I can go find it in my media library. I can click on it and it can take me right back to the moment in the chat stream when I shared it. And so I can go right back to that conversation and revisit that conversation. If I decide I don't want you to have that picture, like not, maybe I was a little drunk, maybe I was whatever, that feels like it crossed a line that actually now I don't want it out in the world. All of our system is revocable consent. What that means is that you can undo it and it will undo on both phones. So if I decide in the future that I want to delete this image, I don't want you to have this image, then I delete it and it deletes on my side and it deletes on my partner's side.
That's incredible.
And that's with text messages, that's with pictures, and that's with relationships. If I decide in the future that I don't want this relationship anymore, I go and I hit the delete this relationship button, and all of that information leaves my phone and my partner's phone. It's gone.
Nice.
So yeah, so we built a lot of trying because yeah, I agree. You know, intimacy is about this sharing, but none of that is enabled if you don't feel safe. If
Yeah.
this is not a place that feels safe. And so, there's a huge amount of thought around security and privacy. And then I would also say there's also about kind of the human aspects of that, because I think there are tech solutions, but there's also sort of society solutions of like, how do you create a world in which, and I'm not saying it will serve any purpose. And there are the people out there that are determined to be shitty. But for most people, like if you give them $20 loose on a sidewalk, they might pick it up. But if they see an old lady drop the $20, they'll give it back to
Yeah,
her, right? Like
exactly.
it's about context. And so we make a point of when you enter the app for the first time, when you download it and become a user, there's a set of agreements that you have to click on. And they are not just, I agree to the terms of service and I'm 18 plus, but they are also a container setting exercise of this is who you are here. And here is a place that is based on, we want to upskill your intimacy. That's going to require vulnerability. We need everyone to understand that this requires some vulnerability. And we're going to come to this place with compassion. We're going to come to this place with an understanding of consent. We're going to come to this place with an acceptance that boundaries are a big part of how intimacy works well. And that all of those are pieces of how we do this here.
I love this.
That was a big long answer.
No, it's incredible though, and I think it really gets to the heart of the matter, of setting context, of looking out for people, and the idea of revocable consent is it does make people feel safe. I've already downloaded the app. I'm excited to get into it. I'm like a little nervous, but like also like thrilled about it.
It'll be fun. It'll be super fun. I promise.
Yeah, no, I'm already ready. So I guess the final question would be, where can people find this app?
Yeah, so we are available for both iOS and Android. So we're in the App Store and we're on Google Play. We are age gated, so it is a 17 or 18 plus app, depending on where you are. It's for adults only, but as long as it's available for adults, like you are an adult, then it's available pretty much everywhere. There's a few countries that don't allow 18 plus apps, but otherwise we are available around the world. And we encourage people to download and try and invite a friend. I mean, as I said before, Amorous is really a partnered app. It's really designed for unlocking an experience with a partner. So kind of the necessary first step is to download and we call them flames because we want to have a term that can like be everything from, oh, I just met you on a hookup app and I want to like keep the conversation going beyond the 1 hour minimum, or we've been together forever, or we haven't been together in 20 years but we still love the sexy chat and we want to have a way to connect with that. But you kind of, all the games and all the conversational tools unlock in conversation. So it kind of requires you to add another person. But yeah, I encourage anyone to try it. I'm very excited about feedback. We're pretty early stages. So as you enter the app, you will meet Amy, who is our kind of a bot friend, and does a little bit of the onboarding, guides you through. You can always ask her questions. So I would encourage anyone who wants to like try it out, please, you can always talk to Amy and those messages come through to me and the team. And so we can see like, I like this, I don't like this, this was confusing to me. Tell Amy, tell her all about it. She'll talk to you. Might take a day or so to reply, but we're there on the other side and we'd love to hear.
Fantastic. So. Thank you so much for this. I'm going to link links to your social media channels so that people can follow you and keep track of what Amorous is doing. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely a pleasure. Thanks so much, Zach.